Filing versus finding. Why smart people struggle with paper clutter. Are you listening to this because you're a smart person? I bet you are. And you want to know why you are struggling with paper clutter. I'm Andrea Anderson, CEO of Productive Environment Institute, bringing you today our next episode of Productive Environment Podcast. And I'm joined by
Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute from Raleigh, North Carolina.
And if you are new to our channel, we talk about clutter. We talk about clearing the clutter so you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life. And there's so many angles to this, but we typically attract people who are trying to get more organized. They're trying to up level in some way, and they're being held back by clutter. And Barbara, you and I talk about all the time that our clients are very smart. Our clients are brilliant. Yep. They're really good at what they do, but then they have this shame around this one area, whether it be paper clutter in their home or even or home office or other clutter, and email clutter and digital clutter, things like that. So I'm going to take this slide off the screen. And again, we're talking today about filing versus finding, and we're going to explain what that means in just a second. But why smart people struggle with paper clutter. So, Barbara, I'll let you kick that off. What do we mean by that? What do we mean by filing versus finding, and why smart people struggle with clutter?
Well, when I first started this 47 years ago, and I would be physically working with people and they would say, I don't know where to file this. Mm-hmm. And one day it occurred to me, it's like, oh, that's the problem. Because it's, you can file it under, we use this example all the time. You can file it under automobile, car, Chrysler, transportation, or vehicle. They're all words that would be appropriate for filing. But the problem is, are you going to remember it the next time? And if you're trying to share it, you have no prayer that the chances that two people would think of the same thing. And if you only had one, I remember early on, it's like if I had a client that had only one drawer of files, then it was okay because we could stagger the tabs. I always put the tabs on the front. That was a little trick I taught people early on, because when the tabs were on the back, which is the way manila folders used to be, but with PEPTalk, and so people would do the same thing with PEPTalk. Well, then what would happen would be the file would get full and it would come up in front of the tab and you couldn't read the tab. So I started putting tabs on the front, which meant the other thing is that when you grab the tab and pulled, you're putting the file the paper where it needed to be. Well, it was easy. If you only had one drawer of files, you could stagger those tabs and you could open the drawer and you could see all the labels and it was just fine. But automobile, if you went to two drawers, automobile would be in the top drawer and vehicle would be in the second drawer. And so then it's like, okay, that filing system just completely falls apart because the person looking thinks it's supposed to be automobile. So they pull it open. Nope, it's not an automobile. Don't have it. They file it, but they didn't look in the second drawer, which is where there was vehicle. So that's where the filing versus finding. It's like, well, the question is, how can I find this?
Right.
What is the word that I'm going to think of? And then it's like, well, there's going to be more than one. So then there's going to be words. And so then that's when we moved into the finding system.
Yeah.
Smart people.
Go ahead.
The smart part of it is that in the beginning, I did work with a few hoarders and learned very quickly that that was not where I wanted to be. That I wanted to be with people who were very intelligent and they were doing interesting things and they just wanted to be the best of the best. They wanted to know what the best of everything was. So they were the people who were signing up for other programs and doing other things. But I remember one time very clearly, woman, I started to work with her and she said, my problem is I just care about too many things. And that's it, right? I mean, part of the issue with paper. And the reason we've said that paper is the most difficult thing to organize. Paper, digital also, but why is it? It's because it represents our hopes, our dreams, our fears, our intentions. And so when we're looking at the papers or the digital or the email, it's all the same thing. You have to deal with those emotions. And when people care too much, then they begin to have to deal with those emotions. But it's much more encouraging to say, how can I find this? Well, we can really explore that. Well, how could you find it? That's what we call the art.
The art of organizing information. We talk about the art of organizing paper, the art of organizing email. It all works together. And I want you guys to just picture this. Okay. Imagine your filing system, your current filing system. Okay. Whether you're at a home office or an office outside the home or both, because most people have, Barbara, what you coined the term, the home office for business and life. Most people have that at home too. So imagine,
if they don't have, they should
have. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need, maybe that is their kitchen counter, or maybe that's the dining room table, or maybe wherever you pay the bills or wherever things happen. We call it a command center as well. But I want you to picture your current system, unless you're already using our system. But picture your current system. And my guess is if I could peek through this screen and see into your space and see your filing cabinet, my guess is that we would open the drawer and we would see labels staggered across the filing drawer, like all the way across. And so that's pretty typical. And that, as you said, Barbara, a lot of people use manila folders, and the label where you write the name or print the label is behind the folder. So even if you guys have I'm visualizing, even if you have hanging file folders, I'm guessing you probably also have manila folders stuffed in those hanging folders, right? And so you really can't see what they are. But I also want you to picture when something new comes in, maybe it's something that came in the mail, or it's something a manual or something that came with a new appliance that you purchased. What happens to that? We see that ends up going on a pile for a little bit. If you have tried to be organized on your own, and maybe you've worked with an organizer, you might even have a really cool label maker. You might have a label maker sitting right there in your office somewhere, and you pull out that label maker and you say, okay, I want to file this. So what label do I need to make? And you think through, and Barbara just gave you guys examples of 5 or 6 different things that you could file something under. So with automobile, car, vehicle, transportation, Chrysler, which word are you going to print on that file tab and then put on that folder and then put in somewhat alphabetical order? I mean, and then the staggers all get messed up because now you've got something new coming in. And so that is traditional. That is a traditional filing system. That's a traditional filing cabinet. Barbara, I know you've been in offices for decades, and my guess is that's pretty similar to what you've seen.
Oh yeah. You see, or some people, they usually try to do alphabetical, but then some files are important. So the ones that are more important, they kind of put those at the front because they use those more often. So that makes it more complicated. And I've gone in offices where somebody had an assistant, and you could see that I can remember one bank president where I met with him. I said, oh, you've had 3 assistants. He said, how do you know that? And I said, because there were 3 different filing systems, because nobody used anybody else's.
Yeah, they change. Everybody kind of has their own system. And so does that make them dumb? No, it just means they're doing the best they can with the system that they have. And I've shared this before, but if you're new, this will be new to you. Let me just share real briefly Tracy's comment. It is simply staggering. It is, Tracy, isn't it? I mean, did I get that spot on with the filing cabinet? No, I know you just got it. Tracy is a new member of our SOAR program, Systemize and Organize with Action and Reference, and she just got a new 2-drawer filing cabinet. So I'm curious, Tracy, before that. Yeah. And what your systems were before that. Oh yeah, Barbara, you weren't on that call last week, I don't think, with Tracy. Tracy, I'm going to tell on you. we were in our group coaching call, and she said, she brought up color coding files, and she said, I just bought this box, or I have this box of colored folders, and I'm thinking of doing them in categories. You should have seen all of our faces. Me, let's see, Carrie, Kathy, Tony, all of us were like, Tracy, no. And you guys might be listening and thinking, what's wrong with that? You might be thinking the same thing. Yeah.
And if you think about it, the Pendaflex company, I don't know if they still do, probably, but for very recently, you would buy a box of hanging folders, and in the same box would be 4 different colors.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually worked with them for a period of time, and I said to them, I cannot think of a single instance in all, at that point, it had been like 20 years that I've been doing it. I cannot think of a single instance in 20 years when it was valuable to have a box of files with 4 different colors. Because what would happen is people would color code them, and then you needed one new yellow one, but you had to buy the box of 4, and then you got a whole, I mean, it was just insane. It was a case of where clutter was caused by, we talk a lot about you solve problems by subtracting, not adding. And one of the things that we subtract from our finding systems is color. That doesn't mean you can't use colors that you like, but the color needs to have meaning. So my reference files are yellow because they bring me sunshine. And so we often recommend to people they do the traditional green just because that's what they already have on hand. But when I started them, by the way, in my upstairs office, there is a 3-drawer filing system with my finding system. It's the same yellow hanging folders with the same labels that I had when I moved into the house here 29 years ago.
Wow, you never had to buy new folders.
Nope.
Tracy, I'm not picking on you, girl, because I did the same thing. Before I found Barbara, that's what I did. I was a color coding queen. And then and you're new at it. You're just learning this process. So don't beat yourself up. And anybody else watching this, if you're color coding, let me just say this, if it works for you, don't change it. If it works for you, don't change it. But Barbara's right. And especially in our system, I like color. My mom loves lots of different colors and different things, and that's fine as long as the color doesn't mean anything in your system. If you like to have the colors around and they're pretty and they're just random, that's fine. But in the finding system that we teach, trying to color code would actually slow you way down. Barbara, you said many times that the goal of our productive environment finding system is to help us get to what we're looking for the fastest way possible.
To be able to file the least difficult way to file, just as quickly, literally in seconds, and then to be able to find it. And that's really the thing. Let's go back for a second about why smart people we say is because it's of interest. I'm interested in this. This is a project I'm working on. It's a project I have worked on. It's somebody I care about. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you literally, 20 years ago, I had a client in Atlanta who had 35,000 files. Using our system, our finding system, she could still find everything in seconds. Now, it took a whole room, and it was the kind of files that were on rollers, that went from side to side, and it took 2 people, but it was important to her. It was the history of her company, and she was in marketing, so it was examples and things like that. And we always talking about the cost factor, which is you can keep everything you want if you're willing to pay the price. And only you know the value of it. And to her, it was valuable. It was worth it. And she was thrilled to death that she was able to keep all those things she wanted and still be able to find them. So again, that's why we call it art. We say paint a picture of what you want to be able to do. If your files were organized in a way that it just made your heart sing, what would you be able to do that you can't do now? How would you know? And when you paint a picture of that, then we can figure out how to make it happen. That's the art.
That's right. And speaking of art, I have to share our new updated blueprint. So this is our office transformation blueprint. And as you can see, it is about the art of organizing information. Well, first of all, clutter is postponed decisions. And then the art of organizing information. And art spells action, reference, or toss. So those are the three. They're not the only three decisions you ever need to make about the piece of paper, but they are the initial three decisions that you need to make about the piece of paper, because there are additional decisions to be made if it is an action. Is it a by date? Is it by topic? Is it by? There's other things to consider down the road, but the initial decisions are action. Is it an action? Something I need to do? Is it a reference? Something I just need to keep? Or is it something I can toss? So this is the art when we talk about the art of organizing information. Okay. And then we teach the Magic 7. If you guys want a full training on this, make sure you join us for our workshop, Tame Your Paper Tiger Live. It's coming up. Depending on when you're watching this video, there may be a replay of this, but Tame Your Paper Tiger Live is a workshop where we go into detail on each of these. And it's a workshop, not a listen shop. So we will do the teaching, but then we will also do the work. So we want you guys to come to this workshop, even if you're watching this not live, if you're watching the replay later on, because we'll put it into a course, a mini course. Even if you're watching it that way, we want you to come to it with a pile of paper. Your most recent pile of paper is best. And we'll talk. I want Barbara to talk about why I just said that. We want you to bring your most recent pile of paper, which could be your most recent mail, some work you've printed off your printer, things that you have around you on your desk, near your desk, on the floor. Why, Barbara, am I not saying go to your filing cabinet and pull out a stack of files and bring that to the workshop? Why do we not want to do that?
Well, often that's part of the reason when people go to organize their files, the first thing is they don't have any room because the file cabinets are full. So they're saying, okay, before I can do anything, I have to make space in my file cabinet, which is exactly the wrong way to do it. Because while you're over here taking the files out of the file cabinet, the old files, the new stuff is coming in, and then you get distracted and you never get to it. So one of the things we say is, which is critical, is today's mail is tomorrow's pile. Clutter is postponed decisions. And when that mail comes in, wherever it is, whether it's, or if it's something that you print out and you've got a piece of paper now, it's an email and you're afraid you're not going to find the email and you don't want to lose it. So you print it out. Okay. When you the moment you print it out, you need to have a place to put it so that you can find it again and you will stop the problem. And I have such an example of it that I love. I saw during in fact, I think I've got the picture here. When Doge was doing their purge, they found a mine in Pennsylvania that
I have some pictures.
They contained 11 million papers. 11 million pieces of paper related to government employees' retirement. This is the picture of the mine. And just look at that. Just look at this. Miles and miles and miles of it. It's insane. And I was so interested when they were talking about how they were going to solve it, because in 2000, so that would be 25 years ago, I created this flyer. And the reason I created it was, at the time I was working in Washington, D.C., and I had a client where it was a government agency, and there was an audit. It had something, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it had something to do with scholarships that were granted, and they needed to pull up some records for the audit. Literally, a truck pulled up to this empty room with a table on it. They dumped out bankers' boxes, hired temporaries, and hired me to manage the temporaries. And I was given instructions to show them to flip through these pieces of paper and find papers with certain names and dates on it. And that's what they did for several hours. And then when we were done, all the boxes went back on the truck and went shipped off again. I was mortified.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the manager and talked to some other people. I said, we need to stop this problem. And it's very easy to stop because at that point I developed the finding system. And so I created this brochure that showed exactly how one would go about doing it. Well, when I watched Doge talk about how they were going to solve the problem with the 11 million records, it was exactly what I'd done, except it was being done with AI and scanning. So in my case, the employees would go through the records, find out what was important and deal with it. Well, with Doge, first of all, they were scanning all of them because they were super scanners. They could do that. And then they were using AI to extract keywords. And the magic in the finding system is the concept of keywords. So we often say the finding system for paper is like a Google search for your file cabinet. So just like, and
That's
people,
right.
when they first hear about it, oh no, this is not going to work. You know, I file the way I have to understand it a certain way. And so my question is what you're doing working?
Right.
And if it is, I have nothing to say. I mean, if you like it, we use 4 questions all the time. Does it work? Do you like it? And here's a real big one with filing is, does it work for the people it impacts? So if you're filing at home, what happens if you're not there and your spouse or your child needs to find it? Or if your work, your colleague needs to find it. And then the last one is, can you recover quickly? Because you go on vacation, you come back and there's a whole pile of papers, or you're sick for a while, or you're taking care of a parent in the hospital. And so if there's a system, and we love system, which we use, saving you space, time, energy, and money. And that's exactly what the finding system does. It saves you space, time, energy, and money.
Speaking of time, the talking about Doge and going into the mine, where and that's where the government keeps all of the files for people wanting to retire, and it would take 6 months to a year for somebody to retire, because and this is just like a couple of months ago that it took that long, because everything was by paper, everything was done, written or typed or whatever, but on paper. And they did a test with at least one. I know they're converting and doing things now, but they did a test and they did their very first one in February. So that was pretty quick. They did their very first one electronically in February, and that person was able to retire in 2 days instead of 6 months to a year to go through all of that. So it's because they were creating a finding system so they could find the information. I do have something else I want to share with you. This is just so fascinating to us. There's the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. This article and these pictures. Oh, hold on, wrong thing. Okay. Look at this image here. This article is from 2016. It is decades out. They're talking about it being decades out of date, their filing system. This space that they're in is, look at these boxes just literally falling over each other. This was a gymnasium. They were required to build a gym for the inmates. I want to stop this, but I hope I don't open something else up. I hate all those little things. But they were required to have a gym for the inmates to be able to get exercise if it was raining or whatever. But this gym became a repository for postponed decisions, right? And this caused a lot of problems. People were released before they should have been. People weren't released when they should have been because of the state of the filing system. And it says, talking about the records manager, it's Thompson's job to turn the roughly 400,000 files, some dating back to the 1920s, into digital files. And so it's a fascinating article talking about, Barbara, this is the Today's Mail is Tomorrow's Pile piece. It says that's if we get no more, because they said they could do it in 5 years. She said that's if we get no more records coming in. And we get about 700 or 800 a month. So she estimates at the rate of digitizing 500 files a week, she could complete the task by the 5-year mark. Well, guys, I checked ChatGPT today because this article was in, as I said, in, let me stop that share. is in 2016. Hold on, remove. And I checked with ChatGPT, and I'll just read it to you. They said, there's been no clear public update on completing the mass digitization of over 400,000 inmate files at this facility. I couldn't find recent specifics on how many have been converted or whether the facility was relocated out of the gym. In short, their original goal of finishing in 5 years remains unconfirmed. So that is a drastic example of clutter is postponed decisions in today's maelstrom, and that's all over the place. So Barbara, I'm just saying, if only people had listened, if the government had listened to you 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they would be in a lot better shape. So guys,
well,
I know that.
Let's apply it to homes, because actually, so if you think about the first book I wrote, Taming the Paper Tiger, was because when I started in homes doing closets and cupboards and kitchens, what I found was all of those storage areas had papers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were in the garage, they were under beds, they were in the closets, they were in cupboards, they were all, and there's still a lot of people that struggle with that. And especially we've gone to digital in many cases. So many people have stopped a lot of the problem, but they still have to deal with the old stuff. And so that's what our seminar, our workshop is, for you to talk about how you're going to manage those kinds of things, because it's not going to go away. And the older you get, the harder it is to manage, the harder it is to make those decisions. And the question we all have to deal with is, what happens if we're not here? We all know that we're not here forever. And if you were to leave this earth, or you were to become disabled, what would your family or the people that you love do? And so a great gift, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for the people that you love.
Yeah. Amen. And you can enjoy Less Clutter, More Life. That's the title of one of Barbara's books, Less Clutter, More Life. And if you are new to us, go over to that website, lesscluttermorelife.com, and sign up. There's just a short 12-minute little video that gives you a snapshot of what we teach. And that will get you connected to us. And so we would love for you to check that out, lesscluttermorelife.com. That's free. The workshop is not free, but it's priced very low and affordable. So, but definitely go check out lesscluttermorelife.com. And yeah, if you guys want to fix this problem, especially if you're super smart and you're like, I'm so good at this, I'm so good at that, I'm great at work, I'm great at my business, I'm a great parent, but I just haven't figured out the filing, I haven't figured out the paper, I haven't figured out the clutter. You are not alone. We have an entire group of people who we absolutely adore in our SOAR program. They are smart people and they're figuring it out. They're learning. So our workshop, the tameyourpapertiger.com workshop, is the first step in that direction. We're not saying we're going to solve everything, and certainly not saying we're going to organize all your paper during the workshop, but we'll teach you the system. Okay. So just bring a stack of paper to the workshop, sign up and bring a stack of paper to the workshop. And we'll show you why this works. I mean, the last 2 minutes of this, I'll tell you, I found Barbara because I worked for a very smart woman. She was the vice president of the company I worked for. She was very smart. She was savvy. She was, just high end driver personality, And my job it wasn't really my job, but I made it my job because I like to organize, was organizing her paper, organizing her stuff. And I did the traditional thing. I tried to color code it. That didn't work. I did the labels where I named it whatever I thought it should be. And I made the labels and it looked so pretty, but she still couldn't find anything. And that's how I found Barbara, because I was like, I have done all I know to do and I don't know what else to do. And I said, God, there has got to be a better way. And I did a Google search, found Barbara, and here I am now.
I just wanted to put in one other thing too that I thought about. If you work for a company and the company has records, I was hired by a major hospitality company, and I went in for 1 day to show them how we did this system. And at the end of the day, they canceled a $5,000 order for filing cabinets because they realized by implementing what we were doing, they wouldn't need it. So if you work in a company that has a problem for it, then maybe you can bring this to the company as well.
That's right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again. Sign up for the workshop. We can work together. Otherwise, make sure you are go to lesscluttermorelife.com, and we will see you on the next pep talk. My mouse is not cooperating, so I'm trying to end the stream. Eds, if you'll go ahead and click end stream, that would be great. Thank you. Bye, everybody.